I'm Wallace. I'm the founder and CEO of Above Board Financial, and in this video, I'm going to talk about exclusions of mental health coverage from disability policies. Now, in this video, I'm going to focus on individual disability policies, meaning the type that you would apply for as your own individual self, separate and apart from any job that you might currently have. Now, there's a couple of things I want to touch on here, and I think I'm going to talk about it in terms of good news, bad news, good news. And so stick with me through this. But first, I would say that good news is that society overall has become much more open about the need to talk about and support mental wellness. And things like therapy or medication to support your mental wellness have become increasingly common and accepted. And I think it's hard to interpret that as anything other than a good thing because it's helping people show up as their best selves in the world. So that's great. Now, the bad news is that disability insurance carriers basically don't see it that way. They will exclude mental health coverage from your disability policy if there is any evidence that you currently do any sort of care related to your mental health. That includes if you only do talk therapy, right? Even if you've never taken medication in your life, simply doing talk therapy alone results in a mental health exclusion. It also excludes any mental health coverage if you take medication to support mental wellness or any other healthcare that might be related to supporting mental health. And I mentioned that because there are increasingly some different types of treatments, whether it's electroshock therapy or use of psychedelics to support mental wellness. Those last ones are actually particularly problematic for coverage and probably better discussed in another video. But the common ones that we see are really talk therapy and or any one of a number of very common medications. So I want to mention that because one, I don't want you to be surprised. And two, I want you to feel like you have an understanding of what's available out there and what's realistic to expect from a disability insurance policy. So the bad news is that if you currently do any of that, or if you have any time in the last few years, mental health will almost certainly be excluded from your policy. Are there some situations where the mental health coverage can still be covered? Yeah, there are some sometimes, but they're very unusual and they usually hinge on very specific circumstances. For example, if you did talk therapy a year ago because your spouse was killed in a car crash and you did that to support you for a few months and then you stopped, right? That's an example of something that disability carriers might be willing to cover mental health or they might not, right? So that's the bad news. Now, what is the good news, right? Well, there are a couple elements of the good news. One is that your disability policy can still be tremendously useful to you, even if mental health is excluded. And the reason for that is that 90% of long term disability claims are driven by matters of physical health. So, whether it's an illness or an injury, it's a matter of a physical health matter. And that drives the vast majority of long term disabilities. So, just thinking about the odds, right? The reason that you might not be able to work in the future due to illness or injury is very likely to be physical rather than mental. Now, additionally, another bit of good news is that some carriers will actually offer you a discount if you take a policy that doesn't cover mental health. And if you're in a situation where the carriers would exclude the coverage because of your own profile, you don't have a choice about it, but at least you get a discount for having a policy that doesn't cover everything. Now, if you're somebody where you listen to this and you're like, oh, I actually think I would be able to qualify for a policy with mental health, you still have the choice from carriers that offer this discount to elect the discount, right? There's nothing that says that from these carriers that are willing to give a discount for policies that don't cover mental health, there's nothing that says you have to pay for mental health coverage if you qualify. You then get to decide, well, if I would qualify for a policy that covers mental health, would I like to have that or would I prefer to have a 10% discount? 10% is typical. Obviously, it can vary by carrier. Now, come visit us at aboveboardfinancial.com if you want to check out a disability quote or learn about your disability insurance options. And feel free to shoot questions that you might have to us at hello@aboveboardfinancial. We'd be happy to help you navigate this.